Hey everybody, it's Gail and this is Errata-Hate and I'm back to show you the progress I've been making on the granny Scrapgan. So my original plan was to pick the squares for the first row and then show you how to do the first row just in the next part of this video. But then I remembered that it kind of sucks to work with black yarn sometimes because you can't always see your stitches, and it can only suck worse to try to watch someone show you how to do something when you're working with black yarn. And since black is my join color, that was not going to be useful. So what I've done instead is I went ahead and I worked the first 3 rows. You can kind of get a sense of them. It's going to be a big one. Can't wait. And I have the squares for the 4th row chosen. And I also have this gold yarn. This is Brene Handcrafter cotton. That does, because then I can just frog it after my example and put it back to work on the other project. And I will be using this to show you how to do this continuous join so that you can actually see the stitches. It's brilliant, right? I'm brilliant. A couple of things I did want to show you on this join before we get started, just to give you a sense of how it comes together, is so we have the black is the join. You will notice that the upper corners of a row, this is the full row here, are not joined as you go on the row itself. They actually get joined as you put the next row on, which I will demonstrate for you. The other thing is that, whoops, my stitches are falling off. No big. The other thing is that you'll notice this short edge here, which is the 3 rows I've joined, do not have the final trim in black, nor does the bottom of the blanket. And that is because of how this join comes together, which I'm going to use these squares to show you the entire process of doing this join, which has a few other steps, but I wanted to make you aware of those 2 things because as someone who is not a visual thinker, knowing ahead of time how things are supposed to look helps me out a lot. So I figured I'd help a couple of people who might be watching. So what I'm going to do now is get the camera set up, get everything turned around, clean off my desk because it's covered in stuff right now, and then I will start showing you how to do this join. I think you'll really like it if you've never done it before. It's a little touchy to get started, but it's really, really good once you get going, and I think it's a very easy join to keep putting into work. So I'm going to go get the camera flipped, and I will see you. Alright, I've got the camera turned around here, and as you can see, I've got 3 squares laid out. I've got the red, blue, purple, and I decided to just do 3 across for this because I ended up pulling 3 different red squares, and I don't want them to overlap. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get our yarn on our hook here. And now throw that over there, and we're going to pick up this first square, and we're going to stitch around 3 sides. So we're going to start at a corner, and we're going to, hold on, there we go, try that again. Gonna slip to stitch that onto place. We're going to chain 2. And now we are going to complete 2 more double crochets like we're making the granny square. And we are not going to be making the full corner on this first corner. What we're going to do now is chain 1 and complete the next 3 double crochets in the next granny square space. 2, 3. Okay. All right, so there's that. And then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to continue to the end of the row by completing those 3 double crochets that go into the granny square that we've built. And you will notice I am only chaining one between those double crochets, between the clusters of double crochets. Usually when you're working a granny square, you tend to chain two, or at least I do. And this is just part of the build of this continuous join. What this is going to do when you are only chaining one, right where I am, is help pull things in together so it holds together and drapes really nicely. I learned the hard way why that is done. I tried to be clever the first time I did the join, and that was not my best work. All right, so we're at the end of this top row here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete a full corner stitch in this corner. So I'm going to chain one, going to do 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, there's the 3, and I'm going to chain 2 on the corner, and then do 3 more double crochets, and chaining 2 on the corners is part of the join pattern, so it's 1 chain. Give me just a second here. Here we go. Now you can see it again. So it's 1 chain in between each of the 3 double crochets of this row, and then it's 2 chains for that corner stitch, and then we're going to go back to 1 chain for the stitches on this side. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and we're coming up on another corner after this set of double crochets. So again, at the end of this cluster here before this corner, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to complete that corner with 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and because it's that corner, I'm going to chain 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on, there we go. So we've got that second corner done. So you can see we've got the 2 sides done right now. So we are going to work our way across to this third corner now. Chain 1 and 3 double crochets. I'm at the final corner here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete 3 double crochets and then chain 2, and then we're going to pick up the next square. So 3 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets, there you go. And now we're going to chain 2. And you remember how we started out on this side by only doing the 3 double crochets? Guess what? We are going to pick this up, and we are going to only complete those 3 double crochets in this corner. 2, 3. Okay. So now they are officially joined. Aren't we very excited? You'll notice that this square is a little bit smaller than this square. They are the same number of rounds. This was just slightly smaller yarn. I don't think it'll make a big difference in the end in terms of, I don't think it's going to cause the blanket to pull or anything like that. So I have these 2 now. And so now what I need to do to complete this row is actually fold back so that the blue square is on the red square. And I am going to come up here to that chain 1 space I made earlier, I'm going to complete a slip stitch to hold it together. And depending on what tutorials you look at, you can either immediately start stitching, but you can chain 1 and go into this next space. I prefer the chain 1 just for a little more movability. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that next space. 2, 3. And now I'm going to come up to the next chain 1 space that's in the red. I'm going to slip stitch it, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to come and work in my next open space on the blue square. And again, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go through my chain 1 on the red square. I'm going to slip stitch that. I'm going to do the chain 1 on this side, and then work those 3 double crochet into the space. All right, and fourth verse, same as the first. And now we are going to complete those double crochets. And now we are at the point, we're coming up on this corner stitch, and so we're going to pull through that slip stitch, chain 1. We are going to complete this corner stitch the way we've completed the other full corner switches. So 3 double crochet, chain 2. You do not join, we are not going to join these top 2 corners now. We will join them later. That's part of the next row. So we are just going to complete this corner. Here we go. And what I'm going to do next, you see how they're joined together now? You can see that we've got that little space in between at each double crochet cluster. It's a good strong join. I like this join a lot. But what I'm going to do next is just go ahead and complete the other 2 sides of this blue like I completed this red. So at the bottom of this blue, we are going to have this, the bottom corner of what we have here, where you have the 3 double crochet, the chain 2, and then picking up that 3rd square, which will come together a little bit differently than how the blue square was attached, because it is the square at the end of a row, and that means that we work it a little bit differently. Okay, I am at the end of the 3rd corner of this square, and like I said, I'm going to join it to this purple in the same way that I joined the first 2. So you can see I have my 3 double crochet and my chain 2. So we're just going to pick up this corner on the purple and do the 3 double crochet into it. And then just as we did when we were attaching the blue to the red, we will attach the purple to the blue by going into that first space on the blue square, slip stitching it, chaining 1 because I prefer the chain 1. Again, you don't have to do the chain 1. And then working the next 3 double crochet into the next open spot of that purple square. And I will be repeating that up to the top corner of this square, and then I will be repeating the full corner stitch as I did on the blue square, and also not attach it to its neighboring square. Okay, so this is the end of this first row. And the big thing to notice here is that you only work two sides of the final square in a row before you get ready to join the next square. And I am actually, I pulled these randomly and I have I ended up with a lot of red. So we're going to use another red square to show this join. But since the other red square is way down here, I think it'll be okay. So we're going to join this new square the same way we joined these other squares, which is to complete those 3 double crochets. So we've got the 3 double crochet, the chain 2, and now 1, 2, 3. So now we've got that join. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold the entire row back so that we can attach this new red square. And much like we did before, we're going to do it the same way we did. Going to get that slip stitch in there, chain 1, work those 3 double crochets. Okay, so you can see where we are now. I am about to complete the top of this corner stitch, and to do that, I've already done my join. I'm going to chain 1. Hold on, did I chain 1? I did chain 1. I'm going to pick up this corner. I'm going to complete 3 double crochets. And now what I'm going to do is pick up this loose corner that I left open. I'm going to stitch into that to slip stitch it, chain 1, come over to this other loose corner, slip stitch into that, chain 1, and then I'm going to pick up my next square and join it the way that I have been joining the others. So we're going to do those 3 double crochets in the corner. And now I will be joining this brown square to this blue square as I have been doing elsewhere, which is to come in here, pick up this this join stitch, chain 1, and work my way across this. And I will be doing this for all 3. Well, I guess it's only 1 left now. Yeah, because it's 3 wide. Sorry. I will be doing this across the top of this square and then joining my next square in the same way. We're coming up to the next unworked corner. So we are going to complete 3 double crochet in the corner of the brown square. There they are, 1, 2, 3. And we are going to slip stitch through the 2 chain corner stitch on the blue square, chain 1, slip stitch through the 2 chain space on the original red square, chain 1, and we are going to join this purple square in the same way that we just joined the brown square. Okay, I am on that far corner of this purple square, just completing that first set of double crochets in the corner. And now, unlike previously, because this is, if we turn it this way, whoop, these get very floppy, by the way. We have this corner here. But rather than leave this corner open, because this is the top of our blanket, we are going to go ahead and join to this corner the way that we have joined to the other spaces. So, with the exception that after we join, because I'm like this, I will be completing a chain 2 because I like being nice and even. And then once we've done that, we can just pick up the rest of the corner. All right, so you can see, there we go, that corner is joined like the rest of the stitches are joined. And now comes the part that can be a little more complicated because you've got all these floppy pieces that are just going to have to hang out, because what we have to do now, move that out of the way, a little more on my desk here, is we have to complete the round across this top, down this side, and then we're going to be coming into here, joining to these corners that we've joined to once already, and then picking up to join the brown square to the purple square. So I'm going to do the first part of this either sped up or with a cut, because I trust that you know how to do this part, and we will pick it up where things get interesting. Okay, so here we are coming up to this corner on the purple square. Let's see if I can get just a little better look than that. And what needs to happen is the first thing we're going to do is complete the other 3 double crochets in this corner that you would do for a regular corner stitch. 1, 2, 3. And now what we will do is we will complete a chain 2, and then we will join with a slip stitch into, oop, hold on, dropped it. Aha. Join with a slip stitch into this join here. So we're going to join with a slip stitch there. And then we are going to join with a slip stitch in between the 2 squares. And then we will come over here, and you see you've got 2 different spots. So we've got this spot and we've got this spot. And we're going to join with a slip stitch, join with a slip stitch, and then we are going to turn this. So here's the purple square laid out, and we're going to lay the brown square on top, and then we are going to pick up the purple stitch, the purple square, and in that corner we're going to do a slip stitch join, chain 2, because this is still a corner, and we are going to complete the corner stitch in the brown square. So, at the end of that turn, Like I said, it's all floppy and weird. You got to get used to it. You can see the finished brown square corner right here. And now we are going to line this up with the purple square again and do what we've been doing, which is to go into the next space, slip stitch, chain 1, and then complete this row. And this is the part that can be a little difficult because, like I said, everything is floppy and moving around, and I've had a few times where I've put my hook through the wrong space and then realized it, a square and a half later when things aren't lying correctly, and then you got to go back. But it's part of the learning process. And, something I've said over and over on this channel is, if you take it slow, you give yourself some patience, take a couple of deep breaths, you'll figure it out. You'll be able to do it. What the hell did I do? Hold on. Oh, and you gotta watch out for that. I just stitched through my own yarn. So, let's go ahead and, ooh, that's a good one, gal. Way to go. There we go. Okay. So that's something else to look out for, is making sure you don't stitch over your own yarn. Picking it back up. Okay, we are done with that side. You can see that it's all stitched together on this join, and we do not join these two corners because these are now the working corners for the next row that you would add on to this blanket. So when you start adding the next row of squares, they will need to join onto these corners as these have joined onto these corners. There's mud, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get this brown square down to this corner, and I will show you again how that corner comes together, and then I can show you what the finishing work looks like when you're finished putting your blanket together. And that part's nice and easy, I promise. Okay, so we are at another corner here. And as I did with the previous corner join, the first thing I'm going to do, I've done my chain 1, is come in here and complete the top half of this corner stitch. So, going to complete 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Is that it? There we go. There's that 3. We're going to chain 2. And now we are going to do a slip stitch at this join point here. We are going to slip stitch into the next space, slip stitch into that join space, slip stitch again, slip stitch again, and then we're going to come over here, pick up that chain 2 from the final corner on the brown square, going to slip stitch, going to chain 2 because I like things nice and even, and then 1, 2, 3, and that completes that red corner. And now, like I said before, we're going to come over here and we're going to do the slip stitch through the brown square and continue up and over. Okay, so we have, let's get that out of the way. There we go. We have these top 3 squares. You can see over here that I'm coming along this top line of this red square, this final red square. But I want to make sure that you see me do the join on this top corner because this is the final row for this example. And so if this was not your final row, you would leave your corner open like I did here. But if it is your final row, you will complete this corner like you have been completing other corners. By which I mean that you will come in and you will do that slip stitch join, chain 2. Bean is having a lot of emotions today, if you just heard her bark again. And then I'm going to complete 3 double crochets right here. 2, 3. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to work across to this far corner, and then I will show you how we finish the blanket so that all the sides have the pretty join. All right, so this is the, so we were this way, and we did this top row. We are now going to turn this way. I've got my 3 double crochet here to start this corner. And to finish off a blanket in this continuous join, what you're going to do is just complete that row of granny square pattern over and then up, and you will end off at the corner where you started. Of course, we will need to address how we're handling these corners, which we will get to in just a moment. So the first thing we do, chain 2, finish off that corner, and then just keep working the usual pattern for going across the square with the 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1, etc. Okay, so we are at that first corner, and what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2, we're going to join, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do 3 double crochet into the top part of this corner, and then keep going across, and then working the rest of this in a similar manner. Okay, so we are at the final corner. Very exciting. And to finish off, nice and simple, gonna chain 1, gonna complete those 3 double crochets in that corner. There we go. Oh, kind of folded over itself. Then I'm gonna chain 2, join to the top of my original chain 2 with a slip stitch, and pull through. Now, if this was the intended yarn for this blanket, and this was the intended size of this blanket, I would fast off and weave in my ends. But it is not either of those things, so I am not fastening off. I'm going to actually frog out the gold ASAP so I can put these in with the other blanket. So to remind you of how we started, this was our first row. This is our second row. And when you're working rows and you know you're not on your final row, you want to keep those corners open at the top. But once you do hit the final row, you want to join those corners to close them off. And you can also see the way the corners come together. Let me see if I can get you a better shot of that. There we go. I really do love the way this join comes together and makes kind of a starburst or flower pattern, or however you want to look at it. But that gets it joined nice and tight. The other thing I love is that, microphone's in the way. Remember that a couple of these squares were a little bit smaller than the others, and There's a little bit of pull that you can see here and a little bit down here. These were two of the smaller ones. But this is something that, throw it in the wash, it's going to soften right out. So that is the end of the lesson for part 2. I will be back with part 3 once I've actually gotten the rest of the blanket together with the black drawing yarn, which is why I was doing it in gold, so you can actually see what I was doing. And I will be back with that so that I can let you know any other tips I might have, give you a sense of how much yarn it took to do the join for the 80 square blanket I'm working on, because definitely a factor when you're doing this join. And I will see you guys soon.